No power on earth can stop an idea whose time has come. Quote that's been variously misattributed to people from far flung ends of the spectrum, from Voltaire all the way up to Adolf Hitler. Actually, the best historical guess for that quote is for Victor Hugo. And it remains true. No power on earth can stop an idea whose time has come. A couple of Tuesdays ago, we were treated to a visceral example of that quote. In spite of everything pushing against the power of that idea, every major cultural institution, from academia to Hollywood to the media, everything pushing against it, 24-hour propaganda ministry working against it, and yet nothing could stop this idea whose time had finally come. And it wasn't just about politics. Politics, as we know, is downstream from culture. We'll be dealing with that a little bit more in a minute. The culture has shifted and the politics followed, and regardless, nothing could stop that idea whose time had come. 312 electoral votes for President-elect Trump. 312. A landslide by any measure. Also winning the popular vote. Also in the down ticket elections, winning both houses of Congress. A public mandate by any reasonable definition. And to the victor go the spoils. I mean, it'll be just like 2020 when Republican leadership in Congress just rolled right over and let Biden have his appointments without any contest whatsoever. But we knew better than that, didn't we? That idea whose time had come still hasn't registered in those who are slaves to those cultural institutions and yet fancy themselves somehow the resistance. What are you resisting exactly? The appointment to the head of the Department of Agriculture, Congressman Thomas Massie, backed by his top advisor, Joel Salatin, an expert by any stretch of the imagination, expert by any reasonable definition. What are you resisting? An end to big agri, an end to factory farms, an end to poisons and additives in our food supply. And while we're on that topic, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a man who knows the power of the deep state more acutely than damn near anyone else walking the planet, having lost 2 family members to it for having the audacity to stand up and call it what it was. Sad to think that we may get to see a Kennedy assassinated in our own lifetime. But we all know how the deep state works, and this guy more than most. He is stepping up to head the Department of Health and Human Services. He is going to have a hand in regulating the FDA. What are you resisting out there? Resistance? Putting up against this cabinet pick? The same things that you have lamented endlessly and, might I add, correctly. Corporate power of pharmaceutical companies dictating how the FDA does its clearance process. But now we're working against that. You want it changed. You want it changed. Well, here's a guy that's going to change it, and you kick back and say, no, while fancying yourself the resistance. Tulsi Gabbard, someone whose morals, ethics, and character should be beyond reproach, even with the most cursory examination. This woman has served her country in combat zones, remains an officer in the National Guard, and has served in Congress. A former Democrat. But she had the audacity to think for herself and against the orthodoxy. The deep state put her on a terror watch list. I want you to think about that for a second. Let me rewind. A terror watch list. She was surveilled as a civilian on commercial flights for having the audacity to speak against the deep state. This was the woman who single-handedly ended Kamala Harris's presidential ambitions in 2020 with a 2-minute statement of fact. And now she is being appointed to head as Director of National Intelligence. The same people that put her on that terror watch list now have her to look forward to as boss. I can understand why the deep state would resist this one, but for the electorate, the only resistance I could see coming from them is based purely in ignorance. Pete Hegseth. Hegseth. Doesn't that just roll off the tongue? Another veteran, another guy familiar with how things work in the higher tiers of the Pentagon without being a slave to that system. This is a man who is competent. This is a man who has seen it up close. This is a man who has served. And this is a man who knows what's at stake, not a neocon warhawk. So you know that the deep state's not about to stand for that. How are we going to resist this one? White Christian nationalist based on his tattoos. Yeah, man. Terrible to think of those tattoos like the patriotic join or die tattoo, like the "We the People" on his forearm, like the Deus Vult on his inside bicep. But look at that panel on the left, boys and girls. I swear to you, I couldn't make this up. Go back and look. Look up Pete Hegseth swastika. Yeah. That Templar cross assembly on his pec. The Templars, the Hospitallers of St. John the Divine. That was identified by people who claim to be legitimate journalists and people who claim to be legitimate media outlets as a swastika, as obvious Nazi white supremacists' symbolism. Resistance. And you can bet they're going to resist this one. Tom Homan, Trump's new border czar. The media is in a panic because Homan's out there on the front line saying he's going to engage in the biggest mass deportation this country has ever seen. And in fact, he is the holder of the current record for most illegal immigrants deported in a single presidential administration. That's something to be afraid of, we're told, while conveniently not mentioning that he set that record while serving under the mulatto messiah. Yeah, Homan's got the track record under Obama's presidency of being the deporter in chief. Funny, when it was under this leadership, they made excuses for it. But under this man, no. There will be no excuses. Nothing but fear, nothing but fear-mongering, scaremongering, racism accusations, and you can bet we're going to get a lot of pushback and resistance on this one. This is Matt Gaetz, boys and girls. Now, I watch C-SPAN the way some people watch professional sports. I'd rather watch the hearings while they're going on. And Gaetz is a freaking rock star. I personally would have preferred Josh Hawley, but I'll take Matt Gaetz. But the resistance, pushing back, talking about ethics allegations, talking about accusations. He was investigated for having sex with a minor. No, he was extorted for $25 million and didn't back down and was cleared by this guy who he's just about to replace. It's all senseless. It's all nonsense. But why would we expect any different? The people in the deep state, the people in the propaganda ministry know exactly what they're doing. The electorate, we can't hold it against them. They are getting their facts from the same echo chamber. Yes, they should be more responsible in their critical thinking, but again, we are scripturally, if nothing else, admonished to separate the sin from the sinner. Ignorance is definitely their sin, but I will not condemn them as sinners because they have learned to trust those same institutions. And again, Politics being downstream from culture, the culture has shifted around them and they are unaware of the cultural shift because of their politics. They stole yet another election from this woman in the state of Arizona. Stolen, Bart? Really? Yeah, I said what I said. But I understand why you're not willing to accept that. Even though the numbers and the facts are laid out in front of your face, I don't expect you to be able to accept it any more than you were able to accept these numbers when they were laid out in front of your face. I had family members pushing back on me. I had friends whose intellect I had previously respected pushing back on me for pointing out the obvious. These same people are screaming and yelling about their missing 18 million votes, when if they would just spend 9 seconds on a Google search the way this person did, they would realize that those 18 or 20 or however many they think they're missing never existed. Even mainstream Democrats who are part of that cultural shift, politics being downstream from culture, are starting to get it. I cannot tell you the number of people who have messaged me personally to say, "Hey man, you know what? I thought you were totally full of shit. But I'm looking at the numbers and this is just ridiculous." Once you still don't believe it could happen, I'll take you no further than Bucks County, Pennsylvania, where they flat out stated openly this week that they knew the ballots that they continued to count more than a week and a half after the election. They knew that the ballots that they were still counting were illegal ballots, and they flat out defiantly said, "We're going to count them anyway." They always wind up showing their true colors. They always wind up showing who they really are when it's down. The same people who can kneel in an act of performative, sanctimonious solidarity for a dead fentanyl addict for 8.5 minutes, but somehow can't find the 18 minutes to kneel from a victim of one of their own policies. Party over principle every time, and they know exactly what they're doing. Now, the people at the top know what they're doing. The people in the electorate on that particular team, just a bunch of whining, thrashing, petulant children throwing a temper tantrum. Now, I'm not going to suggest that we need to drag that child up by its hand and give it a good sound spanking. What I am suggesting is the way you deal with every temper tantrum. You walk away, you ignore it, and you continue to do what you were going to do anyway as an adult, because you don't need their damned consent. Andrew Breitbart quite correctly said that politics is downstream from culture. But you know, there's this crippled, toothless crane operator that took that further and said, Breitbart said politics is downstream from culture. But if our culture is now downstream from the father of lies, what do you suppose that implies about our politics? Thou canst not serve both God and mammon. The culture shifted. But because they are still caught in their political thought bubble, they don't realize the shift in the culture. They continue to follow the father of lies, while the rest of us have seen the light of truth. Whether that is a matter of faith or not, we have seen the light of truth in the way things really function, and we have spoken. We have put our idea forward, and nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. So for those on the other end with your petulant little temper tantrums, you have two options. Step up or step aside. We're coming, and our time has come. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else is on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors, and I cannot stress this enough because probably within the next month I'm going to have one. Certainly not employers. That is for the sake of you docs, happy Antifa maggots out there. They have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They're coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to stretch open that unwilling maw and choke you, willing or not, with a swollen, turgid, oozing dose of truth cock. But just for this week, we'll go a little gentle on you. How about that? Maybe a little spit first? Welcome back, boys and girls. It's time once again for the Sunday sermon. Everybody on board. We're going to do a roll call. I got a lot of people running about 30 minutes behind our usual time. But it's okay, man. This is the way things shake out right now. Where's the fire? Everybody in for the drum roll, please. Hard charging out of the starting gate as we always come roaring out to the strains of Red Desert gut-stomping rock and roll band from the smoldering embers and crumbling ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. We may get to see Minneapolis in flames one more time. God protect them if they are still hanging out and haven't cleared out of the disaster zone. The name of the band is Red Desert. The name of the track is Older No Wiser. Every week I get a little bit older. Every week you guys get to decide if I have gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. I can't make any promises this week, but we're going to find out who's on board and who's going to be judging this show. What do you say about that? The original Sinner Sister herself, the divine Miss Emmy. Happy to see you, Mama. Happy you made it out. We changed the screen format a little bit, so pardon me if things look a little bit different. I'm playing around with some things on StreamYard. We got Jake, Brother Jake on board. Got here first and stuff or something. Brother Roman, and I'm sure Carrie is hiding in the background somewhere. Happy to have you guys on board. Brother Bill Wade. Good evening, gang. Good evening to you, good sir, my brother in Christ. Always happy to see you pop out. Let's see who else we got on board. Mighty Stone. Yeah, brother, I caught that earlier. Guys, if you would, all my prayer warriors out there, my brothers in Christ, my guys who are men of faith, if you would please offer up a prayer for the Mighty Stone. I don't know exactly what's going on right now. We'll have some more details later. But if Stone's asking for help, it's not a small matter. So please, man, by the grace of God and in the name of Christ, offer up a little prayer for Brother Stone out there. We certainly appreciate you. And of course, Miss Charlie upstairs, who didn't click in her head that we were starting up at 6:30 and not 6 o'clock, the usual time. Ran a little bit over for church service today. Dear friend of mine, brother in Christ, his daughter was getting baptized, and I stuck around for that. And because priorities, man, priorities. You don't miss moments like that. I got such a great home church. We'll talk more about it in a minute. Let's see who all is on board first. Brother Joel Allen Jackson. Do you live by the river, Willie? Do you live by the river? Good to see you, man. Happy you made it out. Deacon Mark on the back porch with Ida, no doubt, enjoying some adult sodas and some smokable consumables, and good on you on both counts. RFK Jr. is awesome, brother. You are absolutely right. Popped over from YouTube, but wasn't playing on your YouTube. That's interesting. Wonder what's going on with that. I've been having some format screw-ups on a couple of different platforms. Still trying to work out to get to the bottom of it. What do we got? OG Mike D. Bless you, Brother Bart. Keep putting out the real deal info and spreading the truth. That is the goal, brother. Man, Mike, I'm glad you made it out, and I love what you're doing, and we still are overdue for that conversation, man. We got to hook that up with a phone call or something. No mention of Robert Byrd. No, you know why? You know why, Ryan? No mention of Robert Byrd, because low-hanging fruit. And in Robert Byrd's case, low-hanging strange fruit. Waka waka. You see what I did there? It's funny because he's a racist piece of shit. Basically what I'm saying. I got to control my language here, people. It's just sometimes it just gets a little overwhelming. But Brother Ryan, I'm glad you made it out, man. Glad you made it out. Phil Lewis, watching from down there in Texas, man. Always good to have my Lone Star people on board. Oh, Lone Star people, I miss you. And Lone Star people, you did not disappoint me, man, on election eve. I didn't get a chance to really thank you guys about that the way that I probably should have. They have been trying effort over effort over effort to turn Texas blue. And I got to admit, man, I was starting to have my doubts. Um, just with the population of the urban areas. And you got places like Austin, which is basically South Portland, that they just relocated in the Lone Star State. But I got to tell you, man, um, things are things are good, dude. Things are good, and as we said in the opener, nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. I do want to have a little word of caution for you guys, though, man, and we are going to get into that in the sermon. There's some of the electorate are bordering on idolatry here, and not even so much idolatry. Maybe that was a bit harsh, but a lot of people are counting on things outside of themselves to fix their problems. Let me tell you something, man. I got all the love in the world for Donald Trump. I got tremendous respect for the man, but he is not your savior. You understand that? Some people are having trouble coming to grips with that, and that's totally all right. We'll get it figured out. Go ahead and shut down the bumper music there. Again, man, Red Desert, if you can, throw some money at them. Just, download some tracks, buy some of their merch, because they've been super cool about letting us use that track as bumper music, and it's really, really, really cool to have guys that are on board like that. I'm not, we cover some stuff here that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And when cancel culture was still having its heyday, those guys were cool enough to say, "Hey, man, go ahead and use that as bumper music. We don't care if somebody gets bothered." That took a lot of guts back then. Now, again, we're seeing there has been a pole shift in culture and a pole shift in the politics, which is downstream from that culture. And we're getting to see it play out, man. And it's a lot of things that we should be happy about, but we can't rest on our laurels, and we cannot be too conciliatory. I need to clarify a position. That's one of the bullet points that I had going into this program. I need to clarify some statements that I made post-election, and I need to clarify some statements that I made in a previous sermon post-election about what I mean and what I do not mean about taking the moral high ground, because we got to take the moral high ground and the physical high ground, and it's time to stop. As a dear Russian friend of mine likes to say, we're not fighting back, we're fighting forward. Right? We can come off our heels and set them back on their heels and come out of the starting gate now, but there's a delicate balance there. Before we get into any of that stuff, I want to give a shout out to a couple of very dear parties who have made it possible for me to go forward. A couple of sponsor shout outs real quick. First and foremost, Roman. Brother Roman is one of my oldest and dearest friends, man. We go all the way back to 1988, which if I'm looking at the roll call, that may be before a couple of you guys were even born. Brother Turtle, glad you made it. I hope they keep you safe long enough to take office, and we're going to be covering that as well. Lot of stuff, brother. A lot of stuff. Now is not the time to get complacent. Again, getting back to sponsor shout outs, Roman, one of my oldest and dearest friends. We go all the way back to 1988. He is top dog over at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people, and of course his lovely wife Carrie and Roxy and Allie and bevy of beautiful women over there. He's doing some outstanding watercolor work and some testosterone-driven commentary. He's got 2 books out now under Roman Riva on Amazon, From Dork to Pimp Daddy, and Roman. Really, you're going to want to check both of those books out. Again, take care of the people who are taking care of the program, because without it, and without him constantly reminding everybody to smash that like button to take me up in the algorithm, that's my college word. I got like 3 of those. Sometimes I would lose focus, man, but Roman's very dear to me, man. So I appreciate him being here. And of course, Casey and Dusty Tellison from Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. Period. End of statement done. Yeah, but what about sit down, shut up? You're wrong. The Viking Longship, their smoker trailer, is out sailing the asphalt seas again. Yep, right, there you go. If you're Roman Freely, it's got my art plus boobs. And boobs are always good. I mean, sorry, there it is, that a lot of people tell you to completely eschew pleasures of the flesh, but it's a biological imperative, people. Eyes respond to boobs, and they're very artistically portrayed boobs. I should point that out. Nothing salacious and nothing Pornhub esque. The fact that I'm having to clear this up. Anyway, uh, so yeah, definitely buy Roman's book. And speaking of buying books from my Nordic Smoke crew, you got to buy Casey's book, man. Casey Tellison, Dusty's the pit master over there, and Casey has gone on to, on top of already being a combat vet, a machine gunner, he's gone on to pass the bar, and he is now a practicing attorney here in the state of Washington, which is a fantastic thing. He's got a book, Freaks of a Feather, put out by Latop Press, out of right here in Spokane, Washington. Freaks of a Feather was a combat memoir that started out as a suicide note. That by itself, I mean, really, I don't even know why I feel compelled to say anything further than that. I guess maybe because I know Casey and because I have, I've got to read early drafts of the finished product and some of his other fiction and nonfiction work that he's done. He's an incredibly gifted writer. So I feel compelled personally to go beyond that. But I mean, tagline, a combat memoir that started as a suicide note. What more do you need to know? Even if he were a mediocre writer, just the weight of that, a combat memoir that began as a suicide note. I mean, boom, all the subtlety of an ice pick through the forehead, all the subtlety of James Cameron directing a Jerry Bruckheimer production of a screenplay by Tarantino. That's what kind of subtlety we're talking about there. So, yeah, check out the book. Take care of the people who are taking care of the program. And, I give these guys a shout out. They're not a paid sponsor, so I really shouldn't. This is a bad business model, but I believe in stuff and I use what I believe in. And if it's something that works for me, I'll give them a little shout out. But if you're looking for a nice little gift for somebody, people who could use something like this Iron Infidel battle bottle, bro, place for your wallet, place for your cell phone, clip for your car keys, and it saves you having to carry a gym bag to the gym. You just carry in your liquid refreshment, in my case, some liquid enthusiasm. The guys make a mean product, and I've been running that thing now for this is year number 3 or 4, I think. Yeah, 3 or 4 years running. I know I was on it 3 years, yeah, because I picked it up right before I went off to build that Facebook data center over in Prineville. So yeah, 3 years I've been running this thing now. I've beaten the hell out of it. It's very, very durable. So anyway, whatever. But yeah, some of those, speaking of gifts, the gift giving season is upon us. Some of these books, man, if you know people who might be interested in boobs, well, you got Roman's book. If you've got people who are interested in war stories and well told personal histories with regard to combat, then you got Freaks of a Feather. It's good stuff, man. Buy it for it. And for those of you guys in the Spokane area, they're smoking holiday birds, man. You got what, a week, I think? A week and a half left to get that bird ready. So get in touch with them, man. They're available on all the social media platforms. We're going to do a little rabbit hole here. What would be a good background for this rabbit hole? The rabbit hole is, the background for the rabbit hole is, sometimes we place, you guys are familiar with Occam's razor, you're familiar with Hanlon's razor. Never chalk up to nefarious intent what can be explained by incompetence. I don't know what razor we'd call it. Don't ascribe to nefarious intent what could be explained as a prank that got out of control. Your rabbit hole this week is going to be Drake's plate of grass. You guys are familiar with Sir Francis Drake. He was one of the pioneering European explorers in the 1500s, and charted the whole East Coast of North Carolina, everything else. And as it came out, a little historical artifact from one of his journeys wound up with him getting credit for something that he wasn't actually responsible for. It's a brass plate that was allegedly from when he was anchored in Northern California, which allegedly happened in 1579, and people were wondering why some of the written records of the exploration did not pan out, and why the timeline wasn't quite correct. But they insisted, and they bounced it off the first couple of experts. They Yep, thank you. And thank you for addressing that. Thank you for addressing that. And that's I was gonna leave it, but thank you for addressing it. Um and actually I'm gonna touch after I get done with this. Um Drake's plate of grass Drake's blade of grass. Drake's plate of brass. It's a forgery. It's a brass plaque that was allegedly affixed to a ship that was anchored, a ship that belonged to Sir Francis Drake that was anchored in a bay in California. The first subject matter experts that they bounced it off to quickly authenticated it. Yes, it's wonderful, and it's us, and we are connected to it, and we are going to benefit from being connected to it, and all of these things. Only one problem with that. The subject matter experts at the time, their credentials had been completely overstated, and they were talking out of their ass because their mouth knew better. Uh, when it first came to public notice was the mid 1930s, right? And again, they took it to history experts. You know, these people were subject matter experts whose credentials were beyond reproach. No, their credentials were blown completely out of proportion. But then in the 1970s, as some of our scientific testing methods got more precise and some of our methodologies got more rigorous, they ran some more chemical and electrical tests on this piece of brass. And it turned out that not only was it not connected to Sir Francis Drake, but because of the actual age of the metal, it couldn't have been connected to Francis Drake. So the first thought was, well, somebody just made a mistake. Oopsie, it got out of control. But then it got better. They did a little more digging in the historical record, and it turns out that a group of Francis Drake's contemporaries had made some historical statements that a group of pranksters took and ran with to give the appearance of authenticity. Basically, the long and the short of it is it was a prank gone horribly wrong. Okay? This came down to a college prank that went horribly wrong. The experts took it and ran with it, and it became point of fact. Everybody knows for 40 plus years. And then people continued to push back and continued to insist that it had to have been authentic, even after it was proven that the metal wasn't, that it wasn't even possible because of the age and nature of the metal. The metallurgists, once they had certified, there was no way this could have happened. People continued to say, this is how devoted, and these are the lessons that I want as takeaways from this. Number one, people will commit to a lie. There are a ton of quotes that I could pull here about it is easier to fool someone than to convince them that they have been fooled, right? People will cling to something with a tenacity because nobody likes being wrong. Nobody likes admitting that they are wrong. Nobody likes not even being wrong on their own volition, because you don't have to be evangelical about your improper conclusion, right? You can say something with fervor and devotion, and the thing is, you didn't come to that conclusion on your own. You were misinformed. You were deliberately misinformed. Now, bad on you for not doing a better job of critical thinking, right? But to cling to something so tenaciously when it's obvious that you have been misinformed. I mean, if you need an out, right? If you're intellectually weak and you need to be justified in your wrongness as well as your rightness, because the thoughts and ideas that you're spitting aren't yours in the first place. If you have that level of intellectual weakness and intellectual cowardice, there's your out. I didn't know any better. I was misinformed. They told me wrong. And as I talked about in the opener, I'll give a certain amount of a pass to those folks. But there's a thing, and whether it's more applicable to those of us that walk in the faith, but it's applicable across the board. It's confession, repentance, and atonement. These are lessons to take from this, man. A prank spiraled out of control. People trusted other people who they thought were experts. They weren't deliberately misled by these experts. They were passively misled by these experts because the experts didn't do their due diligence. Kind of like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. So-called journalists, so-called smarter people, so-called college educated individuals, degree holders, that kind of thing. They don't do their due diligence. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not giving a pass to the people with the propaganda ministry. They know exactly what they're doing, right? You have the people at the propaganda ministry who are engineering the lie. Okay. This brass plate is authentic and tied to Francis Drake. That's the lie. Then you've got the lower level people that repeat it as if it were true. And then you've got the rest of the people who are just in that echo chamber. God bless them, man. God bless them. But independently of them learning to do their own critical thinking, at the very least, they need to be able to step up and admit when they were wrong. Whether they want to accord that to someone else, if they want to take the weak person's way out and blame it on someone else, you know what? I'm even willing to give them a pass. Wasn't me, man. They just told me wrong. Okay, cool. Run along. Go and sin no more. Or maybe they'll really man up and own it. I was wrong. I was wrong. I thought that I had been properly informed, but it is my responsibility to seek better sources of information and flesh out my own opinions. This is on me. I was wrong. And then go and sin no more. When you persist in the lie, at that point, I am no longer forgiving you as a sinner. I am being forced to confront your sin. Do you understand? Confession, repentance, atonement. And Ryan, I am glad that you're here, and I am glad that you are addressing it. Sooner or later, someone was going to ask. Uh, Ryan has asked me to take his name off of the rabbit hole segment of the program, which doesn't go to say that 7 times out of 10 the subject matter that we choose to explore, not this particular weekend, but 7 times out of 10, what we choose to explore in the rabbit hole isn't going to be the product of a conversation that I had with Ryan. Okay. You guys need to know that this is not indicative of Ryan backing away from me or me backing away from Ryan. Me and Ryan are just as damn solid and just as respectful of each other as we have ever been. And good luck trying to separate that. But that's his word on it. He's no longer doing the rabbit hole because he was cussed out 3 times and called a God hater and anti-Semitic. I'm moving on. If you're wondering where the fervor has been coming from and the admonitions have been coming from over the past couple of sermons with regard to evangelizing by example, and being careful about the way that you address things, because how you choose to carry yourself reflects in the way that other people interpret not just you, but the faith. Because if that is what a representative looks like, you're going to have people that want no part of that. It's not constructive. Oh, what? You got your little dig in and you felt good about yourself, taking a jab at somebody who, first of all, is a dear friend of mine, and you knew that. A man who I love like my own flesh and blood, and you knew that, and you thought you'd take the easy jab because he doesn't share the faith. All in the course of a conversation that didn't even really involve it. You understand what I'm saying? If Ryan had come in here doing the if Ryan had jumped onto that thread doing the F Jesus and whatever, or even taking what would have been a disrespectful jab, then okay, then it's just two grown-ups having a dispute. That's not the way it played out. And in fact, I named Ryan specifically in the post to say, hey, this is something that Ryan and I have talked about. Wasn't any malicious statement at all. And that's the way some people chose to treat him. So he chose to back away. And I can't say that I blame him. So that's the statement that he's making, is he's not running away from anything. You understand how I'm phrasing this. This isn't him running away. This is him stepping away. This is him saying, you know what? I'm better than this. I will not be disrespected. I don't need it. You guys carry on. If I'm looking at what's going to be a better example to somebody else going forward, which side of the pattern do you think I'm going to be falling on? Somebody who took an unnecessary jab at the expense of someone who was being respectful, or the person who said, you know what? I'm stepping away. I'm not going to return the vitriol. There's no need for me to return the vitriol because I carry myself on a higher level. If I were looking at those two examples, which side of the fence do you think I'm going to fall on? So yeah, we will continue the rabbit hole portion of the program. And you better know in your heart, son, that Ryan is still my brother. He is still my flesh and blood. And you better know in your heart that 7 out of 10 times whatever we choose to cover in the rabbit hole is going to be the product of a conversation that Ryan and I had. Better believe that. Because, what I always said in the run-up to rabbit hole, it's 100% true. That's one of the first things that we bonded over. The fact that we had, both of us, you look at me and you look at Ryan, the first thing you think, I promise, is not going to be, man, I bet those guys are some high-level intellects. And then you get in a conversation with us and then you realize you're out of your depth. One of the things that we bonded over. So anything that we go over in the rabbit hole from here on, 7 out of 10 times, I promise you, is going to be coming out of a conversation that I have with my brother. But he is stepping away from being attached to anything that is going to be reflective of an issue like that, where a particular faith has disrespected him. And I'm with him in that. 100%. Anybody got any issues with that? Take it up with me. My word. So anyway, I'm glad that we got that out of the way. I was kind of wondering how how to address that. But as usual, Ryan's like, "What? We just let's just throw it. Let's just throw it on out there, man. Let's just throw it on out there." So that's where we're at with it. So Ryan taking the high road if only most people of faith knew how to do this. Right, Stone, and that's exactly the point. When the knuckle dragging Neanderthal drops the knowledge on you, you got schooled, son. I can think of a few caffeine-fueled conversations in public venues where it's gone like that. So that was the rabbit hole, and let's go ahead and jump into the bullet points, shall we? If you guys don't mind. Let me see here. Let me bounce on over. And cabinets and conciliations using our goodwill against us. Last week, not just myself, Brother Sonny and some other folks, we alluded to taking the high ground in the post-electoral political climate, right? About there's no need to go out of our way and pile on, right? But I think more than a few people took that the wrong way. One of the things that we need to remember here is we're all still men, right? Not only are we men, but we are not only are we men, but we're men of faith. And if we're not men of faith, we're at the very least men of principle. We've been handed a mandate by the electorate as part of the political process. Now, as men of faith, we didn't need any more mandate than what we'd already been given in Scripture to carry forward the word for the will and the work of the kingdom. That was all the mandate we needed. But within the context of the American political process, we just got handed a very large mandate. The culture has shifted. We have been winning the culture for the kingdom. Whether or not you share the faith, the principles have been winning the day. Do you understand me? What am I talking about? I'm talking about men who are strong, who step up to true masculinity, who lead from the front. I'm talking to the integrity of the nuclear family and the importance of the nuclear family. I am talking about speaking the truth when the truth is right in front of you and speaking it and not being afraid to speak it. I am talking about consequences for actions. I am talking about the sovereignty of the individual. I am talking about, yes, there are specific gender roles. Yes, there are some things that are morally unsound. And if you choose to do them, you must choose to accept the consequences of that. I am talking about the government staying out of people's lives with regard to telling them how to think. I am talking about every value that made the West the West. The culture has been shifting in that direction. Some of it has been based in Scripture. Some of it has been based in fact. And some of it, for people who haven't been exposed to Scripture, exposed to the faith, is just coming from a fact of this is effing ridiculous. You guys have gone too effing far. This no longer frickin' works. And we are going to take this in a different frippin' direction if it short dicks every cannibal on the Congo and hair lips every hillbilly on Buck Creek. We are taking this in a different direction. Doesn't have to be rooted in the big book. Doesn't have to be rooted in the Old or the New Testament. Doesn't have to be rooted in the works of the Stoics or any of the great works of Western literature. Sometimes it's just what you see with your own eyes and going, man, that will not stand. This does not work. For a lot of people, myself included, it was to the point where it got to affecting the kids. Raise your child however you choose to raise your child. You can raise them with faith. You can raise them without faith. You can raise them with discipline. You can raise them without discipline. When the parents of these children say that it's perfectly legitimate health care to slice the breasts off a 13-year-old girl or the cock and balls off a 13-year-old boy, now we have an issue. And even that wasn't far enough for some of these people. You take somebody who's never read the Bible once in their life and bring that to them. We're going to cut the cock and balls off healthy 13-year-old boys because they think they're girls, and we're going to call that health care. Any thinking human being with any semblance of a moral compass is going to go too far. So the culture has shifted. Those of us who were outside, you would not know about the cultural shift if you had been following nothing but mainstream cultural indicators. If you had only been going to state-sponsored universities, if you had only been watching legacy media, if you had only been watching Hollywood films, if you didn't know what a podcast was, if you never read a book that wasn't handed to you by a college professor, you would have no idea how much regular everyday people have actually had enough. These people are isolated. Again, their sin is ignorance. We can and we should forgive them as sinners, right? But once we are forced to confront their sin, now we are dealing with something else entirely. The electorate have spoken and said, this will not stand. The majority of mainstream free-thinking Democrats, liberals, true liberals, had already shifted. And they either sat this one out or voted for RFK in the states where he was still on the ballot. Yes, I do, and I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan, because I'm getting to that when we get into actual cabinet picks. Regular Democrats distanced themselves from this. A number of them held their nose and voted for Kamala anyway. $20 million people did not sit this one out. Okay. Any Democrat, if they are friend, if they are family, I'm very sorry. Any Democrat that looks at you with a straight face and says that there are 18 to 20 million missing votes, that 18 to 20 million people on the Democrat side sat this election out, they are either terminally deluded or straight up lying. Okay? And I'm going to touch on this and then we're going to move on. Between 2020 and 2024, okay, registration for new Democrats hit record levels between 2020 and 2024. A record number of new registrations for Democratic voters between 2020 and 2024. So you are suggesting to me that between 2020 and 2024, that either fewer Democrats hated Donald Trump or the same number of Democrats hated Donald Trump less. Because if you remember, that's what a lot of people, when we pointed out 81 million, you got to be kidding. The first fallback was, well, no, 81 million people didn't, no, they weren't that enthusiastic. 81 million people didn't show up to vote because they loved Joe Biden. They showed up because they hated Donald Trump. That was their first fallback. Where is that now? There are no 18 million missing votes, okay? 2020 was stolen. You can't prove that. These courts didn't. Okay, cool. You know what? It doesn't matter now. I'll say it with confidence, and I believe it. And now the numbers, the sheer probabilities of these numbers coming together the way that they have are basically bearing it out. Will we ever know? No. Will we ever know who fired the fatal shot on Kennedy? No. Will we ever know the full truth behind 9/11 or Oklahoma City or, I mean, pick your, will we ever know? No. But I'm telling you what I believe, and I'm telling you I will make the case for it. 2020 was stolen. Cool. Good on them. They pulled it off. They had 4 disastrous years. But thank God that we don't have to play nice anymore. What I said about taking the high ground and being the bigger person shouldn't have reflected a conciliatory tone. It's basically a, hey, you know what? You're not going to return the courtesy. I got no love for you. You got no love for me. But I'm really going to appreciate it if you just step the hell out of the way. There's no need for me to pile on. There's no need for me to, we want to, this. Why? Why am I going to act like a petulant 7-year-old? Why? Nothing to be gained by that. We have work to do undoing 4 years of unmitigated disaster and a previous 4 years where you stymied every effort for our current president-elect to go forward. And he didn't know. You guys would have been better off just letting him have it in 2020 because you were already stopping everything that he tried to do. And he'd be out of your hair right now. Now he's coming back and now he knows the score. He had 4 years to go back into training camp. How many of you guys out there are MMA fans? What happens with the good fighters? If they take a loss, they go back to the drawing board, they retool everything, they come out with a better game plan, better trained, better ready for the next fight. That's Darth Cheeto right now. That is the Mango Menace right now. He's about to make it a very interesting 4 years. So no, there's no need to go out of our way to hate on these people. They're going to go out of their way to hate on us. Cool, let them burn up that energy. But damned if I'm going to play nice with them. And if it came off like that, then you guys, either I fail. What we have here is failure to communicate. If that's the way that it came off. Do you understand? We are not going to play nice. We are not going to compromise. We are going to recognize that for the first time in a long time, it's not about controlling the politics. We own the culture. That is a bigger mandate than the political mandate, and that is the one that we need to be working off of. And we need to take it to them culturally. Yes, you're correct. You'll hear about using Delta Force to help secure the border. Ryan, even better than that. Even better than that. And you know what? You asked several good questions. Let me touch on them before we jump back in here. Do you think Ron Paul is going to be getting a role? I know that Elon Musk has control of a newly created department called the Department of Government Efficiency. Elon tweeted that, you know who we need to get on board here is Ron Paul. And Ron Paul tweeted right back to him, you have my contact info, get in touch. Boom. Yes, I believe he is going to figure prominently. Whether he does it publicly or not, remains to be seen. Ron Paul has never been a glory hound. He just goes in and gets the damn work done, which makes him perfect for where I think he's going to show up. I think he's going to be working with Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk over at the Department of Government Efficiency, and I think he is going to figure heavily. Why? Because he spent his entire political career trying to undermine it. Taking it back to what we discussed in the opener. We have an electorate that tells us what they want. We want corporate power out of this. We want corporate influence out of that. And then we give them somebody that says, hey, man, we're going to do that. No, not that guy. How long have people been screaming to get Big Pharma out of control of the FDA? How many people have been screaming for every single thing that RFK has promised to do from day one? And if RFK had been doing it under a Democrat administration, they'd love him. Again, party over principle. We don't have to play nice with these people anymore. Bipartisan is coded speech for weak. Bipartisan is coded speech for unprincipled. We don't have to answer to them. For at least 2 years, we don't have to answer to them. So any Republican who is playing along and being bipartisan, where was that bipartisanship for the last 8 years? Where has it been? You have your hardcore, you have your Matt Gaetz and your Josh Hawleys and your Rand Pauls who are principled and stand. Then you have a new breed coming in that everybody wants to hate on, but Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, unapologetic, maybe not the brightest, but unapologetic. Moving forward on principle. And this young crew coming up now, man, I want you to ponder this. Look at the ages of the people who are coming behind Trump. This is what's going to set the pace, you understand, for the next 3 generations. The biggest contribution and influence that Donald Trump had during his first term were the nomination of those Supreme Court justices and all the federal court judiciary, the judges that he nominated. That's what's going to resonate, because now, no matter if the Dems get back into power, and I don't see it happening anytime soon, they'll be stymied at every attempt because the courts won't uphold this activist judicial activism. Bye-bye. Gone. For people who actually understand the Constitution, this is beautiful. This is beautiful, man. But beyond that, this next group that he is raising up, the ages of these people. J.D. Vance is a young man, especially by political standards. All the people that he's nominating, Hegseth at defense, young man. Gaetz, young man. Gabbard, young woman by political standards. And hot. Oh, God, hot. But anyway, sorry, like just kind of jumped out of my face. Damn, I was on the wrong count. Hello there. Yeah, you like that? The Mango Menace. Darth Cheeto, the Mango Menace. Yeah. Well, you know, you gotta learn to laugh at yourself. The other thing I wanted to cover from Ryan, he ended up joining, yes, Department of Government Efficiency, and I think even if he doesn't publicly join it, he will be an advisor. And as far as Delta Force being used to secure the border, I don't think Delta is going to be used to secure the border. I think rank and file military is going to be used to secure the border. But we're about to take it to the cartels, and we're about to take it to the corrupt elements within the Mexican government. You better believe that. Okay, fair enough. Tom Homan has talked about it. Trump has talked about it, declaring, because of the number of Americans that fentanyl has killed, he's talking about declaring these cartels terrorist organizations. And under the auspices of the war on terror, going after them. Now, if you're going to say the war on terror is a constitutional overreach now, I'm going to tell you to go sit down in a corner, because you had no problem with it when Obama was using it to kill American citizens. And you're right. Thank you, Roman. That was you took the words right out of my mouth. Mexico is a failed state. They are a failed narco-terrorist state. Day one, he needs to re-implement Remain in Mexico. Right, exactly. The demand problem. You're absolutely right. And this is a whole other thing that we could get off on. But in response to your question about Delta Force, that's where SOCOM and MARSOC and JSOC and all of that, the special operations community, that's where they're going to show up, is taking it to the cartels. Yes, you're destroying the supply. The demand problem is not going to go away. So we have to have something in place to address that. And this is, again, that's another sermon entirely. We do need to have something in place to replace that, because we do have a crisis going on, particularly. I mean, and that's with opioids across the board. But there's only one opioid that is actively being used as part of fifth generation warfare against the United States of America right now. Right? Yep. Thank you. And and for those of you who want to bristle at that, that was the actual name of the operation under Eisenhower. Not that a lot of those people who would get bristly about that have ever read a history book, but I don't care. We're not trying to appease them. All of these cabinet nominations, all of them, right? They're getting tremendous pushback. Just rolling through, and we're just gonna tick them off as we go down the line. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. I have my issues with Rubio on any number of things. I really don't have a hard opinion on Rubio as Secretary of State. I think you could probably do a lot better. In fact, I think Tulsi would have been better at state than Rubio, but we'll see how that one plays out. That's one of those I really don't have a dog in that fight. But Attorney General Matt Gaetz, right? And we went over that in the opener. What do you hear about Matt Gaetz? What are the things about Matt Gaetz they're always bringing up? The child sex trafficking thing, right? Because that's a hot button issue. The only problem with that is he was cleared on that. And not only was he cleared on it, if you were willing to do the Google search, because listen, and I'm going to say this, I want to be unequivocal. Thank you. Playing it by the book, accused of sexual whatever. Right, because they're all neck deep and dirty as hell in it themselves. And they know that when their bad habits get called out, it works bad against them. You throw that out there, and that is a hell of a thing to get hung on you, man. That is a hell of a thing to get hung on you, because it never goes away. When people throw accusations, it's like accusing a man of rape without evidence, right? It's like accusing a man of rape without proof. It's one of those things, man. If you've got someone, let's say let's bring it home. Let's say that someone accused me of being a pedo, right? Let's say that someone accused me of being a pedo and they made a big to-do about it because they had a lot of political stroke and they had some guys in the media and there were some news reports done about it. And of course, there's no evidence, right? There's no witnesses. There's no anything, but you have allegations now, and a few more anonymous people come out of the woodwork, and suddenly 5 people with allegations of sexual misconduct against minors for Reverend Bart, right? Okay. You hang somebody with that, the first question is going to be, okay, so prove it. Prove it. Do you confirm or deny? Well, obviously I deny, right? But again, it turns into one of those Kafka traps where your denial becomes more evidence against you. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Anyway, particularly Matt Gaetz' case, I want to be unequivocal on this. Anyone, whether they're from Trump's cabinet, whether they're from Biden's cabinet, whether they're in Congress, whether they're in the Senate, whether they're working as a bureaucrat in some obscure federal department that we haven't heard of, whether they're a doctor, whether they're a lawyer, whether they're a preacher, whether they're a Catholic priest, whether they're a Presbyterian bishop, whether they are the freaking Pope. If you are a pedo, you need to be drug out by your face and publicly executed. Full stop. Once those allegations are proven, right there in the scripture, there's a little thing about it would be better that he have a millstone hung around his neck and be tossed into the sea. But there's another scripture, one that's a little more important because it was one of 10 something or others that were supposedly 10 admonitions, 10, oh man, why am I drawing a blank? 10 polite suggestions. 10, I wish you would. 10 commandments, right. And one of those was thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Take a look at the Matt Gaetz case. All of those accusations, one witness, no evidence. And on the flip side of that, they were trying to coax a plea deal out of it. Well, if you plead guilty to this thing that you didn't do, they tried to extort the man for $25 million. Do not take my word for it. Look it up yourself. They tried to extort the man for $25 million. He didn't back down. The Merrick Garland Justice Department cleared him of every one of those allegations without charge. Okay? You remember Michael Brown, the kid that got shot, hands up, don't shoot. You remember that kid, right? Eric Holder tried to prosecute that cop and the whole department. And you know what? He couldn't find any evidence. When Eric Holder says that a white cop who shot a black kid didn't do anything wrong, that's the end of the discussion. You guys remember a guy by the name of John Demjanjuk, a Ukrainian fella who was accused of being a death camp guard at Auschwitz, Treblinka, a couple other camps, and they extradited him to Israel, and Israel said he's not the guy. When the accusation is anti-Jew war crimes, and Israel said no harm, no foul, that's the end of the discussion. When you have a directly weaponized Justice Department, like the one that exists under Merrick Garland, and he looks at a devout, staunch conservative like Matt Gaetz, looks at the evidence and says, he didn't do it. We don't have enough here to go to trial. That's the end of the discussion. And it was until they nominated him for Attorney General. Is he going to be confirmed? It's going to be tough. And I have my doubts. But I'm happy to see it. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. What's not to love about that? What's not to love about that? That's exactly where he needs to be. Because with the rest of his policies being rooted in what they are with regard to guns and any number of social programs and, health care, universal single payer health care and all these other things, he doesn't, I wouldn't put him in charge of any of those other things. But if it's time to clean house at the FDA and get all the big pharma money out of the FDA approval process, he's definitely the guy. He and nobody else on the planet. Elise Stefanik is UN ambassador. It's beautiful. Pete Hegseth is defense secretary. Look into the guy's resume. It's brilliant. Michael Waltz is national security advisor. Beautiful. Solicitor General, Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. My goodness. That made me smile. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. We know where the intelligence apparatus is now. He nominated John Ratcliffe as CIA director, and who did all the mainstream media people bring up to say how these people were unqualified and the wrong choice for the job, and they're going to do terrible things to the FBI and the CIA? Who came out and said that? Oh yeah, John Brennan. Yeah, John Brennan, same former CIA director that said that they weren't spying on American citizens. Same guy that is a registered communist, by the way. Just thought I'd throw that out. No, dude, Google it. John Brennan, communist. Just Google it, please. These guys are running scared. This administration is putting the money where the electorate's mouth is, for lack of a better expression. All these things that people have demanded. We want big pharma out of the FDA. We want all the people like Monsanto out of agriculture. We want our food to be better. We want these things taken care of. We want the FBI to not be a political weapon. We want the CIA to not spy on American citizens. This is when you talk to people, even Democrats. Democrats became strangely comfortable with a lot of those things once their party was in charge. But if you talk to the average real voting Democrat, they'll tell you these are all bad things. These are things that we want to fix. And now Trump has given them a list of people who are going to fix it. And they say, no, it's a threat to democracy. Democracy, apparently, for them is something that only exists when they win. I'll just give you a couple more. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. You guys follow me here? Homeland Security Advisor, Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller. And you have the CEO of a fracking company getting tapped for Secretary of Energy. If that isn't a double barrel middle finger, I don't know what is. But I think it's beautiful because they, thank you. I know. But that's a different discussion as well. Trey Gowdy would be a good guy to have back, but for some reason, Trey Gowdy has sort of disappeared off the face of the planet, and that's a discussion for another day. Here's the larger point, people. Larger point is this: they won. It's a sweeping mandate. That means that the people wanted Donald Trump and what he represented. This includes cabinet picks. So for you guys on the inside, we've got 2 years right now. 2 years before we need to worry about it. 2 years before we need to worry about it. We got both houses and the Oval Office. Here's where we're going to find out who's really working for the interests of the people and who's not. It's going to upset things terribly at the Pentagon. Good. Because the Pentagon is clearly not working. It's going to totally undermine catastrophically bad effects at the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Good. Because the FBI hasn't been working well as anything but a Gestapo for a long time. It's going to undermine things with the intelligence apparatus. Oh, you mean like the same one that's been used largely against American citizens ever since 9/11? Oh, we're going to upset the surveillance state. Oh, horrors. Please don't do that. Anything but that. There's no logic to the argument of any of these people. None. Yes, we do. And why did you ask that question? Because his name is escaping me right now. Kash Patel, I think. Yeah, I think Kash Patel. Yeah, he's totally gonna upend things. This is what the people have wanted to see forever, and now they're gonna get it. Beautiful. I look forward to it because business as usual is not working. All of these specters of fear that they are selling the American people. I totally understand why people are having the meltdowns, why they're crying, talking about Handmaid's Tale BS and national bans on abortion and every other ignorant, unfounded, ridiculous fear that they're expressing right now. I get it. Because it's all they've been told. Literally all they've been told. So why wouldn't they feel that way? Right? We can attempt to assuage those concerns, but we don't have to play nice anymore. We don't have to act as if we are that we just have to accept the fact that we're the bad guys now. We don't. Because if we are the bad guys, well, guess what? The bad guys won. So let them go ahead and have that, but we don't have to. Every time the Republicans get a leg up, we hear about compromise. We hear about bipartisanship. Every time the Democrats get a leg up, they do everything they can to crush us. Every vote that we have is totally along party lines, except for the Republicans. Every Democrat in Congress votes for this and a couple of Republicans. Senate, $50 Democrats and 4 Republicans. Never bends the other way. We're no longer returning courtesy. We are lying prostrate and being run the hell over, and the people are sick of it. If you think that isn't the case, wait till the midterms. These things are still shaking out, people. The important part is that we won. But we can't, this conciliatory measures, conciliation only goes so far. Hey man, I understand. You feel very bad. I'm not going to make it worse by pointing out how stupid you are and the fact that you have no one else to blame but yourself for how you got here. I'm not going to make it worse. But I'm not going to bring you in with a big old bro hug and say, hey, man, I tell you what, I'll meet you halfway. There's none of that. None of that. We are pushing forward, period. Now, if that butts up against things inside the constitutionally authorized system of checks and balances, that is the way it's supposed to work. But until you have given a complete and thorough reading to the United States Constitution and understand separation of powers and checks and balances, I'm not going to hear your opinion, because it's not your opinion. That Maddow fella gave you your opinion. That's what's going on there. I don't owe you anything. We don't owe you anything. The whole time we are looking at this 4-year reprieve that we've been given, I want you to examine I want you to examine the difference in how the parties are conducting themselves. We are looking at trying to get things done, and they are already looking at ways to stymie every attempt to get things done and punish us on the back end of this. All the legacy press is doing their bidding, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. Right, the Dems are. They're the masters of shifting the Overton window. Amen. Amen, Stone. None of this matters. Don't vent the anger. The anger only comes when they start mostly peacefuling again. That's when it'll be time for anger. At that point, no mercy. But in the meantime, we need to stay focused, eyes on the prize. We've been given a mandate. We need to move with it. We have 2 years that we can push completely uninterrupted. We own the Oval Office and both houses. Those 2 years should be used to drive through every damned thing that can be done. From the border wall to mass deportations to concealed carry reciprocity. Name it. Go wild. We've got 2 years. And during those 2 years, we get to see who's really on board and who's just playing along. The Mitch McConnells of the world, the John Cornyn's of the world, from my Texas people, we get to see who's just playing along. Let them out themselves, and they can get primaried and pushed to the side in the midterms. We have a mandate. We have the high ground. Stop fighting back and start fighting forward. Push. As far as the people you know and how it affects you, why do you care? Culturally, we have shifted. The power that they used to have is waning. I'll just go to HR and tell them you're racist. All right, whatever. I won't come spend time with you at Christmas. Good. That'll be one less argument and a hell of a lot less stress and a few less presents to buy for you and your undisciplined yard rats. You don't need to phrase it like that. Okay, we'll miss you. God bless. And go on about your business, people. We have a blissful 4 years where we don't have to worry about what the other side thinks. It doesn't matter what the other side thinks. Now, don't let those 4 years get you complacent. Brother Tom Hollyby just brought up something that don't get complacent. We have a 4 year reprieve where ammo prices are actually going to stabilize. Buy. We have a 4 year reprieve where we can actually train. We don't have to squeeze it in or be worried about how it's going to play out when they pass that bill saying no paramilitary training. And what they really mean is no civilian training for self-defense. We have a breath. We have the weight lifted off our shoulders. Time to take a deep breath. Wow. Okay. Might not last past 4 years, because if we don't capitalize on those 4 years, we're going to be swept out just as quickly as we were swept in, and for exactly the same reason, and we will have deserved it. Do you understand? Don't rest on your laurels, people. Fight forward. Hey, glad you made it. Barista, first time on. Thanks for the invite. Send me a personal message, man. Let me know who you are in the real world, if you're comfortable with that. Regardless, I'm happy to have you on board, man. Hope we're going to be able to bring you something today. By the way, Tom Hollyby is jumping back in with both feet. Stabbers and stubbers. $400 and 300 rounds. Guys, I want you guys to look up Ashigaru Defense Systems and Tom Hollyby. Tom, do me a favor, leave your contact information over there in the comments. Tom is a dear friend of mine. We've had many a conversation at a Denny's when they were wishing that our verbose asses would leave, but he has put in the time and the effort and the training, and he is taking up the mantle of instructorship. I can vouch for the man's skill set. I can vouch for the man's integrity. I can vouch for the fact that he never met a samurai reference that he didn't like. But the guy's sharp. And speaking of sharp, he is doing a class up here in the Pacific Northwest, Stubbers and Stabbers. It's going to be a $400 class. You're going to need 300 rounds of ammunition, and as part of that 4 year, guess what? We'd probably be able to afford it a little bit better. Is a ridiculously beautiful, God-fearing gal, tremendous human being. Well, right on, Jake. Well, thank you for bringing the young lady on board. Thank you very much. Point being, we have that 4 years. We have been given a reprieve. For those of us who are walking in the faith, for those of us who were in the congregation at church on election night praying for the nation, as those election results came in, we understand this is nothing less than a gift from God. If you don't share the faith, fine, not a gift from God. But you better believe that it's reflective of a cultural shift, and I'll take that as well. There has been a climate shift in the consciousness of Western civilization. It's happening. We are living through it right now. As I speak, we are living through it. And it's a beautiful thing to behold, man. And it manifested itself, for the United States at least, in an irrefutable way a couple of weeks ago. We need to take stock of that going forward. But we also need to understand that they are going to come after us now in ways that you would not expect. You can expect them to put lawfare to work against corporations that won't play ball. Doesn't matter. You can expect them to push with the last remaining vestiges of cancel culture. Doesn't matter in the long haul, but there are a few people who could get caught up in it. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? People who don't have the legal wherewithal to defend themselves against accusations, small companies that can be taken to task. And you can bet that there will be acts of sabotage going forward. They're losing. They're petulant children throwing a temper tantrum. But when you look at the Antifa group and the maggot mob and what they've already done, being mostly peaceful for an entire year over a dead fentanyl addict, what do you think they'll be willing to do now? Because they truly believe in their heart of hearts, they believe themselves to be, quote unquote, the resistance. They're not going to roll over. Turtle expressed concern, would they not try another assassination attempt before Trump takes office? I bet. I believe it. I believe that they will. I think that we are going to see some things. They couldn't really blow it open on election night because it wasn't close enough, right? Shock troops are on standby, same way they were in 2020. And this isn't conspiracy theory. They all but gloated about it in that Newsweek article that I brought up here more than once. Antifa is waiting in the wings, man. The BLM crowd, they are waiting in the wings. They are not going to roll over and take this gracefully, okay? Know that in your heart. They're going to come for the school board. They're going to come for the kids. They're going to push for the medical boards. These people at the FBI who have been weaponized, they're not going to just step down, and they're not going to give up power. There's a there's one historical maxim that I sort of coined years ago, and I stand by it. Tyranny never corrects itself. You guys tracking on that? Tyranny never corrects itself. So it's not enough to compromise. It is not enough to play patty cake with these people. You can't coexist with people who want you dead. Don't have any illusions about who these people are. The mainstream Democrats and anyone who could have been redeemed has already left. They've already left. You're going to get hatred. It's going to ramp up. The more this change pushes the entrenched demons out of their place, the harder they're going to fight back. Even a sheep will fight if it's cornered. Do you understand that? And these are not sheep. These are people who have made their living at the expense of the lives of the American people for decades on now. Do you understand? These are people, particularly the ones in the intelligence apparatus, who since September 11th have known nothing but free reign to spy on fellow citizens. A lot of people who are over in the comments here, that side actually, looking at my screen, a lot of people over in the comments here can't remember a world before 9/11, can't remember a world before every damn corner had a closed circuit TV camera on it, can't remember a world where you could literally carry pocket knives on airplanes, can't remember a world where you didn't have to just assume everywhere that you went that you were being spied on, that you didn't have to double check every media post that you made or every letter that you sent because a government was looking to weaponize that against you. You guys don't know a world like that. Some of us are old enough that we remember, and we treasure those memories. We hang on to it, and we see a possibility for grabbing at least some of that back. And you think we're just going to let that slip through our fingers? Guess again, Sparky. I want this administration to push forward. And of course, the very first thing somebody's going to say, oh yeah, cool, man, you're advocating fascism, bro. You're getting back to your old stiff arm salute days, aren't you, bro? Just pushing that fascism, dude. put the bong down, first of all. But more to the point, if you knew anything about what you think you know, if you had any understanding whatsoever about fifth generation warfare, if you had any perspective whatsoever about the things that the fate of Western civilization is seriously up against right now, you would realize that this flawed man, this spray tanned, clown shoed, inarticulate man who occasionally bangs porn stars, who's had multiple bankruptcies and yet remains a billionaire 6 times over, is exactly the right man in the right place at the right time. And I didn't come to that easily. Let me, while I've got this, one of the tabs that I have pulled up here is from my memories feature. And this popped up in November of 2016. This was the exact moment, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it for you. I'm going to read it for you verbatim because I want you guys to understand this. For the longest time, I was a Ron Paul guy in 2012, devout Ron Paul guy. I didn't do sides. I didn't do teams. What I was about, I was, for lack of a better box to stuff me in, a right-leaning libertarian. Okay? Government needs to stay out of people's business, yada, yada, yada. I didn't want to do sides. But am I on the wrong channel because I'm 100% a Trump supporter? Yes, as am I. I am too, hon. I am too. I am 100% a Trump supporter. But I want to tell you how I got here. Okay? It's a long way around, Barista, but stay with me here, Mama. Stay with me, okay? I don't deify the fella. You know who else was a flawed man, Barista? King David. Ooh. Am I making biblical comparisons here? Yeah, I'm making biblical comparisons here. David was one of the greatest kings in biblical history, but he was a flawed man. But he was the right man that God put in the right place at the right time. You starting to track with me now, Barista? You see where I'm going with this? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you see where I'm going. Yeah. No, well, hey, listen, Barista, we have got to acknowledge. We got to acknowledge what we're looking at here. Everybody wants Polly Pureheart, or somebody who appears to be Polly Pureheart. It's amazing. People will point out the flaws in a guy like Donald Trump and, just sort of be able to overlook the fact that Joe Biden showered with his 12-year-old daughter. We need to get into that. We need to acknowledge the fact that we are all flawed, particularly people out here who are people of faith. We have to acknowledge that we are all flawed. Yeah, thank you. And that's exactly what we're looking at now, Barista. That's exactly what we're looking at now. Particularly after the assassination attempt, where the dude came literally millimeters from having his life ended. What, you don't think he had a come to Jesus moment in that? The hell was that going with that? Right man, right place, right time. Bottom line, end of statement, done. We have to understand that he's a flawed man who is in the right place at the right time, and I hope that he pushes forward with every bit of this agenda. That every single person in his cabinet are going to have their flaws. Why? Because we are human. This Polly Pureheart stuff, this imagined moral high ground that this other side is bringing at us, particularly the ones who don't share the faith. Oh, yeah, you guys think he's a Christian, huh? He's like banging porn stars and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you know what? If first of all, you're not a person of faith, so don't lecture to me on that front. But if you insist, oh, he's a flawed man. Yeah, look at what the Lord did with David. Whoremonger, murderer, and yet one of the greatest kings in biblical history. Look what he did with Saul of Tarsus, a man who tortured and murdered thousands of God's best and brightest. And after that moment on the road to Damascus, where the scales were pulled from his eyes, he wrote damn near the entire New Testament from in prison and became God's most prolific apostle. And you don't think there's a place, and you don't think there's a place in there for a guy with a bad spray tan that hit it with a couple of porn stars? You think God can't work through that? You think God spared a man twice, once by millimeters from having his head clipped, and there's no plan in that? Now, maybe you don't share my faith. Okay, fine, cool. Set that out in a box for a minute. Right man, right place, right time, with the right policies who appeal to the right amount of people, and the American electorate is behind him. Do you understand? The American electorate is behind him. So we don't have to answer to the naysayers, and we don't have to answer to the maggot mob. And we've got 4 years of not having to answer. Take advantage of every single minute of it to continue to shift the culture, because politics is downstream from culture. The cultural shift is what made this political shift possible. Do you understand? And we are winning the culture. We need to take this high ground that we've got for the next 4 years and continue to shift the culture. We need to continue as men to reach out to the next generation of men, these young boys, a lot of whom are fatherless because of the evils of the prior generations. Reach out to them and continue to shift the culture. We need to reach out to these young women who have been conditioned by this demonic Luciferian culture to believe that their only worth is selling pictures of their butthole for $5 a month to 200 subscribers on OnlyFans. And yeah, it's real easy to make fun of that and, call them whores and all this. But who brought it to that point? We have a responsibility to step up and step in and get them to step away from it. I was in and out of the titty bar industry for 20 plus years. Do you understand? Do you know the things that I've seen? Do you know the things that I've been a part of? So I'll be damned if I'm going to come off as pious Pete here, like I've got some moral high ground. I'm just telling you that if we want out of this, these are the people that we need to be reaching out to. This is not empowerment. And I watch so many lives come into that business. There was an old joke in the business. You know what the difference is between a waitress and a dancer? Usually about 2 weeks. There's another part of that joke that they didn't tell you. You know what the difference is between a dancer and a prostitute? Usually about $1,000. And I watched between 2002 and 2022-ish that the price for that, the difference between a dancer and a prostitute, got smaller and smaller and smaller. And they try to tell these women that this is empowering. This is empowerment. You taking control of your own life. You get that bad girl. And the ones that like to slag on the people of faith because they don't share the faith and say, hey, Jesus hung out with prostitutes, bro. Yeah, he did. When he saved Mary Magdalene from being stoned to death, did he take Mary Magdalene by her garments and say, yeah, baby, you tell him, you live your truth, you go, girl, get that bag? He said, now go and what? 3 words. What? Go and sin no more. You don't feel me? I still wrestle. I still struggle, man. But culturally, we are making the shift. And culturally, people are coming around. My goodness. The prime minister of debauchery and degeneracy, a guy like Russell Brand, watching his evolution, it has been beautiful to witness. Kat Von D, whole collection of occult books, including some first edition Aleister Crowley's, gone. Don't want it anymore. Blacked out entire limbs in tattoo ink to cover those occult designs. college campuses all over the place, man. It is happening in Iran right now. Do you understand? People are stepping away from Islam, taking up secret churches, secretly worshiping Christ. I'm glad he brought me home when he did, man. I'm glad he brought me home when he did. I'd still be on the forefront of pushing the culture because I have always been a Western chauvinist. I have always recognized the greatness that is Western civilization. I have recognized that Western civilization is God's highest expression on this earth in the history of the human species. But I wouldn't have a full perspective on it. Not like it is when it's anchored in the faith, baby. It hits a little different. Hits a little different, as they say. Boy, man, that hits a little different now. Yeah, it hits a little different. It hits a little different when you're walking in the truth of that light and the light of that truth. And you can see the full spectrum and you can see the full width and breadth in that divine plan and have that unequivocal faith in the divine plan and our small little part in it and how important it is that we remain strong, that we remain resilient. Because guess what? You remember what Reagan said? Remember what Reagan said not too long ago? Y'all remember? Not too long ago, says the guy who's high school. Okay, I'm old, whatever. It wasn't so very long ago that Reagan said that. We die off the planet. There's nowhere else to run. You understand that? Europe is damn near lost. Once we get America back on track, we're going to have to fight tooth and nail to claw Europe out of their grasp. We are it. Do you understand? If we fall, every value of the West falls with it. You think God's going to let that happen? I don't think God's going to let that happen. But let's just say you don't share the faith. Let's leave God out of the box for a minute. Do you think we are going to let that happen? Do you think people who truly believe in the importance of freedom, if you truly believe in the sovereignty of the individual, if you truly believe in representative government, if you truly believe in freedom of speech and freedom of expression, do you think as a principled man, we are just going to let it slide? Patrick Henry, I know not what course others may take, but as for me, somebody finish the sentence, please. Somebody give me a witness on that. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me, bring it, people, somebody, give me liberty or give me death, son. And we were right on the edge of having to make that choice. But I'm going to say this. Too many of y'all out there right now got a little too comfortable. Got a little too comfortable. Trump won. We can throw it out. Trump's got it now. First of all, putting your faith in any man. I had somebody who's been a dear friend of mine for over a decade. And I got really, really bristly. You know what? I'm going to call him out. Billy D. Washington. Billy D. Washington is a damn good comic. He's a damn good human being. He's also a dyed-in-the-wool true liberal. He is. But he brought out something because we were in a heated discussion on social media. And he said, man, he said, I'm always thrilled watching you communicate. I'm always thrilled watching the way that you express yourself, the way that you get your point across. I'm just sad that you serve at the feet of a man, and proceeded to list Trump's flaws. And I had to check him. I said, excuse me, counselor. I serve at the feet of only one man. You understand that? I serve at the feet of only one man. And that man was scourged, tortured, and murdered a little over 2,000 years ago. That's who I serve at the feet of. You understand? And a lot of people seem to think that, oh, well, Trump's going to carry the day. No. And particularly you people who are brothers, who are my brothers in Christ. You think Trump's going to carry this now? We got work to do, son. We got work to do starting at home, starting on a personal level. How many push-ups can you knock out nonstop right now? How many flights of stairs can you run up right now nonstop? How much water and food do you have put back? Do you know how to run a gun? When was the last time you spent 60 straight seconds punching a heavy bag? How about some more of those push-ups now that we got through all of that? Are you being a decent husband and a good father? Are you being the best husband that you can be for your wife and the best father that you can be for your children? Are you being the spiritual leader of your household? Even if you're not in the faith, are you being the leader of your household? Are you being the king of your castle? Are you leading from the front? And I don't mean that dictatorial kind of iron hand, man. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being the proper example. How are you doing, huh? Great. We got Trump in the White House. We got both houses of Congress. How's your house? We got Trump in the White House. I'm wondering, how's your house, brother? Trump laid down this, Trump laid down that. What have you laid down, brother? What's your latest hit? What, you think just because the culture's shifting, you ain't got to put in your work? You think this happened organically, just like on its own? Just one day everybody woke up and went, yeah, No, man. It took diligent work from better men than me, far better men than me, trying to carry that message. It is in our hands now. We have to pick up that torch and we have to carry it. Those are the examples that we start needing to set. That's where you start, son. Or what you think? Yeah. Yeah. Trump won the White House, so I can stop communicating. I can stop carrying the word. I can stop. You putting your faith in a man? You serving at the feet of a man? And a flawed man at that. God can do great things with flawed men, but God didn't say, I'm going to put a flawed man in the White House so you can go back to sleep, son. Get your ass up and on the move, chin down, knuckles up. This fight's just getting started, man. Or what? You think we're the Allies taking Berlin? Son, we just hit the beach at Normandy. We just hit the beach at Normandy. We ain't nowhere close to Berlin yet, son. What we have is a beachhead, and what we have is some momentum. We relinquish that at our own peril. What we have is a mandate. What we have is the trust and faith of the American electorate. We relinquish that at our own peril. What we have now is the initiative. We have the initiative. We have seized the center of the ring, and now it's time to take the fight to them. We don't have to be hateful about it. We just have to get the job done. How many of you guys out here are ring fighters? I know Ryan is. Ryan fought in the ring. Sometimes you get in the ring with someone who thank you. Yes, sir. Let's have that conversation again. See how many more people we can upset. Point being, Ryan fought in the ring. Sometimes you get in the ring and you've got genuine hatred for the person across the ring from you. He said some bad things about your mother, whatever it is. Sometimes you got some genuine hatred. We don't need to have genuine hatred for the other side. I'm not stepping into this ring. I'm not stepping into this cage with malicious intent. I don't need that. I'll let them burn up their energy. They got more than enough malicious intent for both of us. I am not stepping into this ring with malicious intent. I'm stepping into this ring because there is a job to get done. I need to work. There is work to get done, and that work is standing across from me in that other corner. I don't hate you, brother. I don't hate you. But if you think I'm not going to walk through you to get this job done, guess again. Let that hate burn you up. Let the fire of that hate burn you up. I am going to let the fire of my conviction keep me warm. I am going to let the fire of my conviction light the way. Not just for me, but for everybody who's got to come behind me. We are not fighting back anymore. We are fighting forward. Chin down, knuckles up. And brother, you are not ready for the fire that we're going to be bringing. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. I appreciate you guys being here, man. I really do appreciate you guys being here. Didn't mean to. No, yeah, I did mean to get preachy. I'm about to. I didn't mean to get preachy. Yeah, I did. You know what? What I'm going to lie right to your face. We're going to save the medical kidnapping thing for next week because that's something that deserves a whole lot of time, and I fully intend to give you that. I appreciate y'all being here, man. Particularly Barista for showing up on somebody else's recommendation. I hope the last 20 minutes of the program didn't disappoint. And if you want to send me a personal message, you can find me on Facebook, Miss Barista. You can find me on Facebook if you want to send me a personal message, because don't think I missed that question that you dropped me. What is it? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to address that question with you. Just hit me with a personal message on Facebook, and I'll do that. Right now, I'm going to pass around that digital collection plate. If anything that I brought today did anything for you, change your perspective, touch your heart, touch your soul, pull some scales from your eyes, man. I am on Cash App, I'm on PayPal, I'm on Venmo, I'm on all that good stuff. If you want to throw me some coin, that would be beautiful. I could kind of use it, couldn't we all? But I get it. Reluctantly, for the next month or so, we are still living under the terminal results of the Biden-Harris economy. So understand, if you ain't got it to kick down, that's totally cool. Here's what you can do for me instead. If you got your own social media pages, whatever, tell your friends about the program. Just tell them, hey, man, this fat, toothless, crippled crane operator with some opinions. He gets on and rants and raves every Sunday for an hour or two. Maybe you'll find something in there that'll help you out, man. So just, spread the word, extend our reach a little bit. But here's what you can do, not just for me, but primarily for you. Stone, you know what we're about to say. Hashtag live the three, baby. Live the three. Live the three. What the heck is this guy talking about? Live the three, baby. The 3 prime directives. That's right. Reverend Bart's 3 prime directives for life. Number 1, signal and noise. The signal to noise ratio in the culture right now is all jacked up. The noise is all over the place. You're getting buried in the noise. You have to be the signal. The noise is the lies and the deception. The signal is the truth. The signal is the stuff that matters. You've got to be the signal that punches through that noise. You've got to be the signal in a world full of noise. You got to be the light in a world full of darkness. They will try to bury you with the darkness, demoralize you, dehumanize you, emasculate you with the darkness, make you think there's nothing left in the world but darkness. You have got to be the light that carries through the darkness for other people to follow, and the light that punches through the darkness to the other side for other people to see. Which leads me to the third and most important of the 3 prime directives. I am talking about strength. You have got to be strength in a world full of weakness. And I'm not just talking about this kind of strength. This is important, but it can't just be here or here. It's got to be here, here, and here. You got to find your spine. You got to let your balls drop. Why is strength so important? Because without strength, none of the rest of it matters. Without strength, you're not going to have the punch to drive that signal through the noise. Without strength, you're not going to have the tenacity to carry that light through the darkness for other people to follow, or the punch to get it through to the other side for other people to see. So strength above all. And when you pray, strength, clarity, and discernment. Clarity and discernment always, because the tools of the deceiver are out there. He is the father of lies for a reason. Don't let the father of lies work those lies and deceptions on you. Utilize that clarity and discernment to carry the strength and carry the message. I appreciate every one of y'all, man. God bless every single one of y'all for being here. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Seek the truth. Walk in the light. Boss Man's got the plan. Carpenter's got your back. I love y'all. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. We will see you next Sunday. Thanks for being here, y'all. God bless you.